Hello, my name is Jeremy Carty. I'm an educator here at the Kopernik Observatory and Science Center. We're atop a hill that's about 1,700 feet above sea level in the Vestal, New York area, several miles away from city lights. So we really get a great view of the night sky and even the daytime sky. Like right now, there's a nice half moon up there that we could use our telescopes to observe up close. Now, Copernic hopes to provide our community and beyond the opportunity to study the universe through our class programs, uh, our public programs, summer camps, uh, using our telescopes, of course, or our planetarium, and a bunch more. So we offer a lot of new technologies to explore up here, and we always love to take people on tours. And of course, the best way to do that is in person, but unfortunately today we won't have the opportunity due to the pandemic. But we do still want to show you around our building, and we figured we'd try this out virtually in 360 degrees. So my recommended way of viewing this tour is to use a virtual reality headset or your smartphone. And on those, you can either pan around on the screen, hold your screen up and look around, or if you have a VR headset, it's right on your face and you can just look around like you normally would. So let's try that out now. I'm going to move off frame and I want you to follow me around. So let's give this a try. So you can see, we can see the entire world around us. We have our nice field area, which is soon to become our science park. Some parts of our science park are already there, including our nice blue pavement, Kopernik blue. We can look behind us. Ooh, there's a nice gust of wind. Look behind us here, we have our nice tree line. Coming around, you can see my car. And back to the main building, you can see our sundial right out front. So that's the idea. In each room, you'll have the opportunity to explore in 360 degrees. Now, this is going to be a two-part tour. We're going to do our Science Center building first, and then there's going to be a second video for our telescope tour. So you'll see a second one there for that. But without further ado, why don't we get started and head on inside? Let's go. Follow me right this way. All right, here we are, walking through the entrance to the main lobby of Copernic. And at first, you'll be greeted by a staff member here when you come to visit us. And they will, depending on what program you're here for, you'll go through admission. Of course, you're always welcome to explore our science shop where we have Copernic shirts, really cool science projects and activities, rocks and gemstones, pictures of the sky that we've taken here, lots to explore in our science shop. But I'm going to start off now with talking about where Copernic came from. So we are named after Nikolai Copernic, and here he is. So back in 1973, or the 1970s really, the Copernic Society of Broome, also known as the Polish Society, wanted to commemorate the 500th birthday of Nikolai Copernic. So what they decided to do was build a science center and observatory. But who is Nikolai Copernic? Well, the picture is right here, but the English pronunciation of this famous astronomer is Nicholas Copernicus. This is the Polish pronunciation. So he's known as the father of modern astronomy because he discovered that and proved that the sun was at the center of our solar system. Before that, one of the main popular beliefs was that the Earth was at the center. But he was able to prove, because he was a mathematician as well, that the sun was the center, and that's the heliocentric solar system. So he was born in 1473. In 1973, Kopernik Observatory finished construction, and we were a single classroom with two domed telescopes. And now, in 1993, I should say, that was the second major expansion. And there we added three more classrooms. We added another telescope dome, a big one. We have our sundial out there, the gazebo, our solar panel, So that was a huge expansion in 93. And that's mostly what we are today, except that we're under our second major expansion. That second expansion is underway, and that's the Kopernik Science Park. So we're going to have a really cool science playground to explore. We already have our nature path and pond out there, so adding some natural elements as well. This is a multi-phase project, so we'll be adding things over time. But in the first phase, we'll have our playground, and we'll be working on that very soon. We'll see a little bit more about the science park when we step outside. But for now, I want to take you on a tour of our classrooms. So we have 4 classrooms to look for, and the first thing we're going to look at is the space science lab, and that's right over here. So why don't you follow me into space science, right this way. Okay, welcome to the first half of space science. I'll show you this room in 2 parts because it's our largest classroom. Space science is exactly what it sounds like. Of course, we focus mainly on space in here, but that's not always the case. Each of our classrooms are flexible on what we do with them. But you'll notice the theme in here is certainly space. We have a bunch of NASA Space Telescope pictures in here. This one is of the galactic center region. It's actually a composite of 3 different views of Hubble Space Telescope, Spitzer Space Telescope, and the Chandra X-ray Observatory. So those are layered on top of each other, and you get a really nice view of the galactic center. Over here, we have a couple of model rockets, and yes, you can in fact launch these. They're pretty massive, so you need a big engine, but they're pretty neat. We've never launched them before, just because we think they're so cool, but maybe they'll fly one of these days. Last thing I'll show you over here is a couple of other images of space from different space telescopes. This lays it out a little bit better than the galactic center picture. I'm just showing you the scopes that took the image. Again, this is Spitzer, Hubble, and Chandra. And then you get a composite view of the Cassiopeia A supernova remnant. And then there's a couple of other images off to the side there. But this is a really nice display of how you can put together different layers of images to get a really nice picture of an object in the sky. And we do that here. So that's about it for the back of the room. Why don't we take a trip to the front now? All right, welcome to the front of space science now. And I'm going to start us over here with this big brick wall that we're seeing. It goes all the way to the back of the room. If you look around, it's not like the other walls. That's because this was the original wall of our building. So back in 1973, you'd be outside, out here, and then you'd enter through these doors. This is the entrance to the old lobby. So it's sort of cool. You get a little bit of history as we tour around the building here. And we'll also do a bit of time traveling when we visit our next classroom, especially because that one's from the 70s. So you get a little bit of 70s aesthetics there. So this room we often use for our public programs, and you can see we're set up with many empty chairs looking for people to watch one of our events. But we are currently doing live stream programs right now, and BB-8 and R2-D2 are always there in attendance, so you might see them. But we have our live stream set up. We've been doing those on YouTube and Facebook, so be on the lookout. We just had a very awesome one from the Crew Dragon program where Bob Benkin and Douglas Hurley, Douglas Hurley is a local astronaut. He grew up in the Owego area. They were able to successfully fly up to the International Space Station aboard the SpaceX Dragon capsule. So really successful launch and docking to the ISS. And we're excited to see where that program goes from here. It's the first time astronauts have launched from the United States since the space shuttle program. And we have a model of the space shuttle right over here. So Last time this launched was 2011. This is a 1/15th scale model that Lockheed Martin donated to us. And it sort of looks like a space plane. The Dragon capsule is more like what the astronauts flew aboard during the Apollo program. And we have the rocket that took the astronauts to the moon right here. This is a scale model of the Saturn V. And if you can believe it, this is made of Lego. This is actually a Lego model that you can find yourself. So if you're interested in building a big, giant rocket like that, you can look for it. And it does not launch, however. I don't think you'd want to, just because then you get thousands of pieces blowing up, right? Uh, last thing I'll point out, we have our two astronauts here. This is the more modern astronaut suit. This is what they take out when they go on spacewalks. And then back here, I believe this is Buzz Aldrin. And you can see Neil Armstrong in the visor there from the Apollo 11 mission. So that's when the astronauts went to the moon. So Neil Armstrong is hopping along in the visor view there. So one last thing I want to show you is one of our tools that we have up here to explore space, and that is the black hole simulator. And this is the smaller one. We have a really big one too. But the idea is you have spandex here, and you can put a really heavy ball at the center to simulate a black hole. And this is like the curvature of space. And because there's that curvature, things will appear to fall into it, unless you're orbiting. So let's try and orbit one of these marbles, maybe a couple of them too, around that black hole. Here we go. Look at that. So you get a nice orbit there. Now, because there's air in the room, and we have gravity itself here on Earth, that will fall into the center there. But black holes aren't cosmic space vacuums. Uh, you can orbit a black hole as long as you're a safe enough distance away. So this is also sort of simulating orbits in general, not just for black holes. You can possibly build something like that at home if you have some spandex around. You might even be able to try it with some stretchy shirt material. So there's some recycling that you can do there to try and build something like that. All right, so that's space science. As I mentioned, we're going to go into our oldest classroom, the physics lab, next. So follow me right this way. Here I am walking through the old lobby into our physics lab. And as I mentioned, we are doing a bit of time travel here. This is our oldest classroom at Kopernik. You can see uh, the aesthetics definitely changed. You get some older flooring. That's probably the most noticeable bit. But we use this for the physical sciences. So we look at light in here, sound, magnetism, electricity, and some astronomy as well. So we actually have a telescope in here. This is called the heliostat, and we use this to observe the sun. Now, I want to stress that if you have a telescope at home, never use it on the sun. Never look at the sun through it. It can cause you to go blind very quickly because it's just way too bright. Any other object in the sky is fine, but the sun is no good. Don't look at the sun. We can safely observe it here at Copernic, though, using the heliostat. And this is sort of like a movie projector. We're going to project an image of the sun. So you get a nice view of the sun on this piece of paper here, a smaller view, or you can rotate that eyepiece around and you can look at a 9-foot diameter sun on this wall over here. And we were able to observe the solar eclipse back in 2017 with this. We've seen transits, like the transit of Mercury, where Mercury passes in front of the sun. Also the transit of Venus. We can even see sunspots on the surface of the sun, which are cooler and darker regions that show up really well in a projection telescope like that. Right here we have, right next to the solar telescope, we have a view of the different layers of the sun. So you can go and learn more about the different, what the sun is made up of and how light comes from it. So this is sort of the solar corner over here. Next up, I want to talk to you about this strange dark cylinder in the back of the room. Uh, and I think I'll show you what it does first. So I'm going to step into what's called the dark room here, and let's see what happens with this cylinder. Hello there. So that is the dark room door. There's two entries into the dark room. But what is a dark room, you might ask? Well, it's for developing film. So back in the day when you had to use film to take pictures, you would have to go through a process, a chemical process, using something like a dark room. And it's also exactly what it sounds like. It is a dark room because white light will destroy your image. So you can only use red light in there, and that's how you get a really nice image using a few different chemical processes. So we do still have the capability of developing film. We don't do it very often though. Just most of us in general in the world have moved on to digital photography. That's what we're doing today with our 360 camera, right? So it's pretty cool though that we still have that capability, but it does help to show the age of this classroom for sure. Now, one last thing I want to show you just as a quick example of what we can do in here. One of our favorite programs is lights and lasers, and we love to break light up into its components. Just like, think of rain and sunlight passing through and breaking up into a rainbow. We can do that in here with a special tool we call a rainbow peephole, or we also have rainbow glasses. And I'm going to see if this will work here. I'm going to hold this up in front of the camera, and maybe can you see that rainbow effect near the light bulb there? So you can do that with any kind of light, and you can actually use that to identify materials on other worlds. So that's one of our favorite things to do is with the Rainbow Maker. But we focus on more than just light, as I mentioned. We do magnetism, electricity. We have really cool electronics kits that we play around with in here. You can see a bunch of electronic bits strewn about in this room. But that makes up the physics lab. And it's a really neat room. We have lots of tools to use in here. But at this point, I think it's time we move on to the earth science lab. So that's one of our other modern classrooms. So we're going to go back to modern times here and check out that room next, right this way. Wow, it's so dark in here. Oh, okay. It looks like you guys are getting a sneak peek on our planetarium system. So this is our portable planetarium. We've taken this all over the New York State and even beyond that to schools, to libraries, to explore the sky without having to worry about the clouds. So right now we're just looking at the daytime sky as it is now. But if you want, we could take a look at something quick. Maybe we can zoom in on the moon here. Yeah, there we go. You see the moon on the ceiling there? That'd be kind of cool to have in your room, huh? Well, if we turn some lights on here, I can show you a way to at least get an experience like this on a screen at home. Oh, wow, look at that. This ground is sideways. Let me turn on some lights, though. There we go. So if you go to, let me turn on another set. If you go to stellarium.org, you can see that on our whiteboard here. Stellarium.org, you can download a planetarium software for your screen. They also have a web-based version if you prefer not to download. And you can observe what's in the night sky on any given day, not just today, but also, thousands of years from now if you want. So check that out. But let's talk about Earth science now. The planetarium system isn't always in here, but we are currently developing programs for it in this room. We have a neat image of the pillars of creation here, which is a really cool nebula. And this object, I believe, is in the sky right now. Don't quote me on that, though. And we have this will be up on one of our walls one of these days. It's not normally just on this table. What else do we have? We focus on geology in here, meteorology, hydrology, the earth sciences, right? We have rocks and minerals and fossils over here. A lot of these are local ones. We got some of these down nearby our local creek. But you can find those all over. If you have a creek near your house, with your parents' permission, go uh, check out and see if you can find any fossils. Lots of cool fossils in the New York area. Uh, what else do we have that we can talk about? Well, that about sums up Earth science. One of the big things, again, we're doing is the planetarium in here. But we have a smart board as well that we use for our class activities. That's one of the boards you can draw on, take notes on, use it just like a whiteboard, but with some more interactivity. So without further ado, I think it's time we look at our last classroom, which is the computer lab, and I bet you can't guess what's in there. So why don't we go check it out? All right this way. Oh, you guys are already here. You guys are so much faster than me. All right, well, this is the computer lab, and I'm sure you couldn't have guessed. Yes, we have computers in here. We do a lot of programming classes in this room. We have our Stellarium courses. We also have some neat things called Lego We Do Robotics. And you can put together a Lego and then program it to do a particular action. So we have a bunch of different models for those. And students love that course. You get to learn a lot about programming and you get to build Lego. What more could you want? So the other reason I brought you in here, because beyond that, it's not terribly interesting to look at computers. Something we have all at our homes. I love to bring people into this room to show them our astrophotos, and we have a bunch of them. These were all taken at Kopernik through our telescopes. Um, and we have a nebula wall here. Here's the Crab Nebula. We have the Eagle, Swan Nebula, and the Dumbbell. Those are either where stars are being born or where they have died. Then we have on this wall a couple of comets, like Comet Hale-Bopp from 1997 and Comet Holmes from 2007. You can see Hale-Bopp was a really brilliant comet, had really nice tails there. This is the Pleiades Open Star Cluster, a very common winter object. If you've ever, in the wintertime, if you've seen this weird cluster of stars in the sky, that is the Pleiades. It's also known as Subaru. Yes, just like the car company. They're named after this star cluster. That's why their logo has those few stars there. So that's Pleiades. In the back of the room, we have a picture of our 20-inch telescope in its dome with the Orion constellation just above it. We also have the aurora in 2003 came this far down south, and we were able to photograph that. Really nice view, really a lot of really cool colors there. Then we have our galaxy wall, a bunch of different galaxies here, two spirals, like M51. This is the Whirlpool galaxy. And you can see there's two cores, and that's because this was another galaxy that collided with the larger one. And here's an irregular galaxy, so not any specific shape to that one. And another spiral, M81. So we constantly take pictures up at Kopernik of objects in the sky here. And we post them online, so be on the lookout for those. Okay, I think it's time we wrap up with this part of the tour. So why don't we head out to that second part of the lobby, and we'll wrap up. Thank you for joining me on Kopernik's virtual tour. If you enjoyed that content, please consider supporting us through our donation link in the video description or on our Facebook page. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and follow us to continue seeing this virtual content. And be on the lookout for the next tour video, the part 2 with the observatory, where we'll explore our telescopes, starting with this big guy right here. So thanks for joining me, and we'll see you soon.